Welcome back to my channel. This is Tanzil Mirza. Today I wanted to discuss a very basic and very important concept in Angular. I'm talking about fetching data from a remote server using HTTP request, and we'll see observable and subscribe as well in this video. But in this video I'll cover up only get part, I mean get request only, because this is an intro tutorial, so let's not complicate the things. We'll see other calls like put, delete and post later. But okay, so what we'll do, we'll simply fetch some records from a remote server. In our case, it is going to be JSON placeholder. I'll tell you what it is while writing the code. So using get call, we'll do it, and along with that, we'll also see how observable is set and how to use a subscribe, how a component subscribes to an observable, and what are the benefits of it. So I'm going to create a new Angular application using the same old command, which is ng-new. But before starting the coding part, let's understand the flow first. Uh, uh, I have prepared a very simple PPT for you guys. So let's look into that first. Here it is. So on client, we have a client side, which is your browser, and we have a server side. So on client side, we have a user list. Okay, so this is the custom component that will actually display the list of names of all the users which are stored on that server. That's it. No calculation, no logic. Okay, we'll simply fetch the names and display it. And all that user information is stored on a server far away from this component. By far away, I mean it can be on a different machine, different host, different time zone, different programming language, and a different implementation altogether. So this user list component will have to request to the server. The server will have a database, and this component, what will this component do? It will make a request to the server. Server will do the processing, and in return it will give a response, and the user will be able to see all the names. But it looks simple, but it's not the right way to do this. Yeah, I can write all the code in one component and just get the things done, but we have to follow the right approach so that our code is less complex, easy to understand, easy to maintain, and easy to test. Okay, so what we'll do, um, instead of having a direct relationship between the user list and the server, what we'll do, we'll create a service in between, and that service is going to have a method. Let's say get all users, and the return type of get all users is observable. Okay, then we'll have a HTTP client in between. So the server, the user service that we'll create is going to make a get call, and that get call is actually a function which comes under HTTP client. So to use the get method, we'll have to call HTTP client. This class will have to call. Okay, so this method actually get all users. This method will create a get call. It will make a get call over HTTP to the server, and the server in return will respond, and it will set an observable to that function get all users. Now what will happen, we'll have one more method in order to use the information. So what's happening right now is, when this thing is successful, this observable return, when observable is successful, what we can do, that means the data has already been written by the server, and now it is ready to be consumed. So now it becomes the responsibility of the component, the custom component, which in our case is user list, to harvest that value. So to harvest that value, I have created one more function inside user list, that is all users. And if that method wants to fetch the records which are set in the observable, then that all users method, or whatever method it is, it has to subscribe to the observable. Okay, so after subscribing, it will get all the value, and then that component can store it in its local array object or array of object. It depends upon the implementation and the requirement. So in our case, we'll fetch everything and we'll keep it in our users array, this one. Okay, this thing will do. And guys, in this video we'll not discuss anything about the server much, because most of the time you don't need to worry about how server will respond, because server knows how to respond. Someone has written the code for that. You just need to hit the right URL and then it will get the value. So the best thing with this approach is that you need to make get call only once. In the right hand side you can see you just need to make all this call only once, and whoever wants to fetch that value just need to subscribe to the same observable. So in our case we have set the observable to get all users, and then we have two custom components, user list, which is subscribed to the observable. And suppose tomorrow we have one more component, let's say other component, then it should also have a function which should be subscribed to the uh, same method, same get all users, the same observable, I mean. So this is how it should work. Okay, now enough of the theory part. Let's get our hands dirty and let's look into the code now. Okay, now I'll create a new project very quickly. Let's do it. I'll go to the documents, go to my folder, and I'll simply do ng new. Let's say my app. Okay, the project is ready now. What I'll do, I'll open the project in VS Code. Okay, here we have it. Let's go to the source and app. Okay, first let me tell you about the JSON placeholder. So JSON placeholder is a fake REST API. Okay, as the heading says, it's a fake okay, free to use fake online REST API. It's a fake REST API which you can use to test your code. Okay, that's what we are going to do now. So it already has some data. It has already got some data. All you just you just have to hit the right URL. So I'm going to hit this URL. Okay, and see, it is displaying all the data. It has got everything in JSON format. Let me zoom into it so that you can see that properly. Okay, so I just need to hit this URL, and the server knows what to respond and how to respond. Let me minimize this. Let me run this project, ng serve. What happened? Okay, I'm not into the clear. Okay, now again I'll do ng serve and go there. The project should start running. Okay, I'll open one more terminal. What I'll do here is I'll create one component first, our user list component, ng gc user list. So a new component should be added. What happened? Okay, I'm not in the right directory. Why I'm doing that? My app, and once more I'll run that command, ng gc user list, and the component has been created. Okay, done. Now I'll create a service as well, ng-gs. This is the short form, or you may write generate service and then the service name, but I'm just telling you the short form of this, ng-gs, and the service name will be user service. I'll just keep it user. It will already create, it will add service by itself. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, let me now check whether the project is running or not. Localhost 4200. Yeah, it's running, up and running. Minimize this. We are in the service has been created. Now I'm going to write the method, that method I showed you, get. Okay, but before that, one important step I missed. I have to inject HTTP, because the function that we are going to create will make a get call to the URL to the server. So in order to use that get method, I'll have to inject HTTP client. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just keep it private HTTP, and this is of type HTTP client. Okay, HTTP client. And to use this HTTP client, you will have to import a package as well. Import import HTTP client. From where? We'll have to import it from @Angular common HTTP. Why I'm putting this? And this has to be Angular. Okay, so this issue is also resolved. Now we are free to use this service. Now I'll create my method. The method is get all user. I'll be specific here. Okay, I'll be specific here. Get all users from the DB. I'll be specific, and this will be of type observable any. Okay, now we have to import this as well. Auto import. Okay, why it's not coming up? It's because I haven't completed the code yet. Okay, let it be. The return should return this dot HTTP. Now I'm going to make the get call. Get this thing, and which URL I have to hit? Let's see, this URL I was talking about. I'll just copy this thing. I'll go back to the code, paste it down here. The return type of get method here is also observable. Okay, so this is also resolved now. Okay, done. So this part is also done. So now our service is capable of fetching the data from the server using this URL. From this URL it is able to do that. And once observable is set, this being done, now we will go to our our custom component will go. This is the TypeScript code. I'll open the service. I'll split it to the right so that we can see and compare both the files. I'll close it here. Now in this component, every component who wants to subscribe to the service, to this observable, whosoever wants to do that will have to keep a copy of all that information within itself, so that the data is preserved. Okay, so let's say we have an array over here itself in the service itself, and each component is going to change that array. They are manipulating the array, so it will be a chaos for everyone. So to keep the code clean, what we'll do, each and every component, ideally each and every component should have a separate copy of that information. So in this case also, we'll keep it in a separate array, and I'm going to call that array as users, and it's going to be a blank array. I mean, the declaration is blank. Now what I'll do, I'll create a method which will subscribe to this observable that we just created here. Okay, so that function I can name it as, let's say, fetch all names. Okay, this being done, now we have to subscribe here. This dot user service, this service we have to inject first. Okay, let me inject this service first into the constructor. Private service, private user service, and it's of type user service. Okay, it should be automatically imported also here. Okay, this being done, now we are free to use that user service, and from the user service, this observable, this method we have to use. Okay, it is already suggesting parenthesis and then the keyword which is subscribe. Okay, here we have subscribed. Now inside the parenthesis, do whatever you want. I want to fetch the value, so that is in the form of response. So I'll do like this, response, and I want to store this response into this array, into the local. So what I'll do, this dot users dot push. I'll use the very old JavaScript function, that is push, and the response. Done. Let's save the code. Some code cleanup thing. Now I'll open the template for the same. Here is the template. And let's say division. Now we have to loop through that. Ng for, because it's an array, there are multiple values. User of users, and here we will print. Okay, in h2 we'll do user dot name, but I guess it's an array inside array. Let's see, we'll figure that out, but first let's see this. But I'm expecting an error. Let's see the console. I'm expecting an error. It is complaining about some other thing. Binding ng for what I did. Such a rookie mistake, I missed the let keyword. Okay, once fixed, go back to the code, and yeah. Okay, let's now refresh the page and see if we are getting the values. No, we are not getting the values, and that's because I haven't called this function. I declared it, defined it, but I did not call this function. So I would like to call this function on ng on init. I mean when the page loads, when the component gets loaded, I want to do it right at that time only. Okay, this being done, now all I have to do is to call that component. I mean this component I'll have to call. I'll go to the app. Where is my app component HTML? Here it is. I'll simply call it. But I'm expecting one more error actually. I'm expecting no provider for HTTP client, and I'll tell you why. I'm expecting that, and boom, yeah, we are getting, yeah, I was expecting this, no provider for HTTP client. This is because to use HTTP client, see here in service we are using HTTP client, but the app module is not aware of that. So in the app module, what we'll do, we'll add one more import, HTTP client module. This thing I added, and this also got imported automatically. Let me save everything, go back to the code. There's no error. Okay, error is not there. Now I'll go back to the code, and why names are not displayed, because I think there is one more array within it. So you have to be sure about the structure. It's because of the JSON structure that the data is not displayed. Let me just check whether data is coming or not. I'll put a console over here, and let's see. Yes, data is coming. So this is what I was talking about. See, data is coming, but it's not been displayed. That's because it's an array of objects. Okay, it's an array inside array. Okay, so what we'll have to do, we'll just tweak our app code a little bit. this template code. Where is that? Yeah. So what we'll do, instead of doing this right here, I'll delete this. I need one more loop actually. So it depends upon the structure. You just need to go through the structure first. What is the structure of the response? So accordingly you can change your code. Now I want one more ng for, and I'll iterate through the user. I'll say person of user. Okay, now I'll put it down. Why here inside this loop only is division only. I'll put it, and I'm going to change it to, now it's not person anymore, it's not user anymore, it's person now. Save the code and let's see what happens. It is coming, and yeah, I'm getting the names as well. All those 10 names I'm getting. So my sole purpose was to show you how observable and subscribe work, how to make HTTP calls. Yes, you can decorate these names, those CSS things and design things you already know. I'll not go into that, but this is how you do it. This is how the names are, the information is displayed. Let me give you a quick recap of what all we did. First of all, we created a service, injected HTTP client inside the constructor. We injected it. And why we injected HTTP client? Because in order to make a get call, we need get method, and that get method belongs to this HTTP thing. So using this HTTP instance, I'm calling this method. Okay, this method I'm calling, this URL I'm calling from the remote server. And you don't have to worry about the server side code, because it's already, server already knows how to respond. Okay, so this you just need to get you just need to hit the right URL. So once you hit this URL, it will set an observable. Once observable is set, why this approach, why I have taken this approach? Because the setting up the observable, mm, it's a one-time process. You don't have to do it again and again. So once observable is set, now let's say there are hundred of components who wants to use the information. They just have to subscribe to that observable. See it. Let me give you a very simple example. Let's say you subscribe to a channel on YouTube, or maybe a news channel you subscribed. Okay, so whenever there is a news or newsletter, anything, they will automatically send it to you. You will be notified. So this is how it works. When these custom components have subscribed to that observable, then your half of the things are already resolved. Okay, so once observable, then we set the observable, and then inside our component, right now we have only one component, user list. So that component needs two things. First of all, it should have an array, a storage of its own. It can be an object array, array of object of array, anything, depends upon the implementation and the structure. So then this component should have local variable. Local, because we don't want to disturb. I could have kept a variable here also in the service, but let's say there are 10-20 components, and each one is making requests, and each one is manipulating the array, so the data will become wise. So it's better to have a private copy of its own. So now they have this component will have a user array, and it will have a method, let's say fetch all names, and then this method will subscribe to this observable using subscribe method, and you will get everything in the form of response. So we don't need this. So once you have this thing, response, now it becomes the responsibility of your template how it wants to display the things. Not this one, and this one, how to display the things. So that's how it works. So this was only the get call. In future videos, I'll try to cover put, delete, post and other things to the same server. We'll try. And yeah, so that's all for this video. I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to comment below if you have any doubt. Okay, I'll try to solve it, and if not, then we can schedule a Google call or Zoom call. Anything will do. So thank you so much guys, thanks for watching this video. We'll be back soon. Thank you, bye bye.